Okay, so this is pretty cool. So what we've done in the past for our QLI artist showcases is we've had somebody just one way perform live on YouTube, which has been really cool, but
Mhm.
but we really haven't had a chance to interact much. And so
Okay.
what they've done is gone on live and then it's all been performing,
Mhm.
which is awesome. But we're featuring different artists. Could be a visual artist, could be a musician like yourself. And I was excited about this as something different in terms of us having a conversation. So we're not doing this live to the world, but we'll record it, edit it, and then we'll premiere it for our folks to be able to see. And we'll put it publicly too, and you can share it however you want. So you are our official
Sure.
guinea pig for our Zoom conversation with our artist showcase here. So yeah,
Ooh,
thanks for joining us. It's
great.
awesome.
Of
Yeah.
course. I'm so
Um,
glad to be here.
yeah, well, appreciate it. And you've got a connection. Before I get into a little bit of your bio, you have a connection here at QLI. You want to tell people about how you
Mhm.
know about QLI?
Yeah, so one of my dad's childhood friends, Bob Davis, actually works there. And so I've known Bob forever. He's like an uncle to me. And so every time that I would go, to and from Illinois, if I was driving, we would usually stop by Bob's house. And sometimes Bob will come up to Denver when he would have to do some work trip sort of things. And then we
Yeah,
would get
picking up,
lunch and we would talk.
residents for admits from Craig Hospital or whatever. So yeah, he would stop by.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And so he would come on up, we would have some dinner. And yeah, we would just kind of talk, catch up and everything. He'd tell me about what he was doing and why he was in Denver for the time being. And like you were saying, it's usually to bring people to and from the hospital.
Yep. Yep. Bob's awesome. He'll do that at the drop of a hat. And he speaks so
He's
highly of
great.
you. And when we were talking about doing this showcase, he was right away advocating to get you on. So I know he'll be
Oh,
excited as well. And we were joking when we were planning that everyone around here is astounded that Bob Davis knows an opera singer. So and for those
yep.
of you who don't know who Bob is, I'm going to share the screen. He'll be really excited. And I'm going to show a photo. Let's just make sure that this works here.
Sure.
Um, let's see if this works. Can you see it on your end there?
Yep, I
All
can. I
right.
can see like your
All
desktop.
right. So I have a picture of Bob Davis. And there he is, ladies and gentlemen.
There he
There is
is.
Bob Davis with a bedazzled headband and a rocky robe. And of course, being very safe with his mask on as well. So he is a responsible party goer. And that's Bob Davis. I know he will. And look at the hair. I'm so envious.
I love it.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I love the whole getup.
Yeah, doesn't he
It's
look great? The whole color
perfect. It
scheme,
looks
everything works. Beach
wonderful.
ball with all of that. So that's our first visual, which was pretty exciting. Uh, so that's Bob. And
Perfect.
I do have some videos that I would love to share. Maybe we'll start with one and do a segment and to give
Sure.
folks just a flavor of your craft, and then we'll talk a little bit about that
Absolutely.
too. So okay, let me try this again.
Sure.
All right. Can you see it there? I'm such uh, a Zoom. There's Bob again. Okay. So, okay, now I'm also, not only am I Zoom a novice, I'm an opera novice.
Yes.
So one of the ones that you sent,
Sure.
I am not even going to try to pronounce it. The first,
The French one?
it's looks like it's French.
Yep. So
Conai.
it's pronounced Connais le pays.
Oh,
And
okay.
so
Yep.
yes, this
I would have said Connais to La Pays. So I
yeah,
would
that's the thing with French. Like they add a lot of extra letters to the words that they have in the language. And so you have to kind of know exactly what to pronounce and what not to pronounce. And it's a crazy language. Like it just in the end it kind of sounds like mush, but it really is beautiful.
Okay, so well, this is a really dumb question. So do you speak French or do you learn the words to speak it articulately? So how does that work when
Yes.
you learn a song?
So, in undergrad and grad school, like I am not fluent in French. I could not go to Paris and have a conversation with anybody that speaks French. Um, so what I do is, and like I was saying, at different universities or conservatories and grad school, one of the classes that you take is a diction course, and every quarter or every semester, depending on your school, you kind of learn the phonetics of a language, and you learn what the International Phonetic Alphabet or IPA is. And so, if there was a language like that I have no experience with, or my language coaches don't know, I can use the IPA International Phonetic Alphabet to just kind of piece together the words.
Oh,
And
that's really
so,
interesting.
yeah, like,
So have you ever that's really interesting. So you may not you learn how to speak the language, but maybe not how to understand it. So have you
yeah.
ever had someone who's a French person listen to your piece and then critique you on how accurate it
Oh,
is?
yeah.
And does it
Yeah.
sound like
So,
an accent? I don't
so
know.
Oh yeah, no, I totally get what you mean. So my vocal coaches, or my basically the coaches at the universities that I would go to, or like people that I know, they're really well versed in the language and how to pronounce everything. And so it's not necessarily like you have to have an accent when you sing it, but you have to pronounce everything, with the right vowels.
Sure.
So that or saying everything syllabically. So if I was saying a word in English, um I don't know what's a word that has, oh, like gigantic.
Right.
If I didn't know English and I had to read that word, if I could say like gigantic or
Sure.
gigantic, and like
Right.
that's not correct. And so
So it's
through
not
the
even
IPA.
it's more than the pronunciation. It's how where to emphasize, phonetically. That's
Yep.
my gosh, I never even really thought about that. So when I think of like opera, I think, well, you've got to really learn your how to sing and your pitch and being on
Yeah.
key. But then in addition to this, you've also got to learn you have to learn the language and how to phonetically.
Hmm.
So is
Like
when you're
pronounce it.
how do you
Hmm.
get how does that work in your headspace with when you're trying to sing? Do you have to practice so much that you don't think
Hmm.
about it? Like it just
Kind
becomes
of.
ingrained?
Yeah. So like whenever I pick up an aria, what I like to do first is when it's in another language, I'll translate it. And so from, whatever the French is, or if it's Italian, I'll translate it to English, and I'll match, each word to the English word. And so in the end, it's not going to really make sense. If you read it in English, it's going to kind of sound like Yoda. And then through there, I could translate it into an English form that I can understand. And so it's like when I'm singing the aria and there's specific words, like the word love, like in Italian, for example, like amor. If it says that, then, there's a really good chance that I'm going to emphasize that word. And so like I do have to know what I'm singing in this other language, but like through practice and really getting that language in your head, I
Yeah.
don't have to think of it completely when I'm performing, but I do, just through repetition. It's like, oh, like I have to emphasize this, I have
I
to
have all
do
kinds of
this.
questions. We haven't even listened to anything. So, yeah.
Totally.
But so I'm assuming an aria or a piece is there are examples that you can go and see how someone else performed it. Does that help
Hmm.
you? And
Oh yeah.
is there a drawback though because you don't want to try to exactly mimic exactly how someone sounds? So you
Yep.
want to maybe hear how the word is pronounced, but maybe not exactly copy it. Is that
Yes,
true? Okay.
absolutely. Yeah, that's a big thing. Singing new arias, you never want to just listen to one specific singer, like,
Mm-hmm.
singing it, because, if you keep listening to that, then you're going to grab some of their mannerisms,
Mm-hmm.
or
Mm-hmm.
heck, even like the rhythms that they sing sometimes can be incorrect. And then you could learn the
Mm-hmm.
aria incorrectly. And so,
And then to
yeah,
go and unlearn that is really hard, right? If you learn
yes.
something the wrong way and then to try to break that habit,
Oh,
I
yeah.
imagine is really tough.
It's
Okay,
much harder.
let's listen to a little piece here and let's see if I can share the screen because I still don't even really know what I'm
Sure.
doing here.
Qu'en est-il des pays où fleurit l'oranger, les pays des frérots et des roses éphémères, où la brise est plus douce, des oiseaux plus légers, où dans
was really beautiful. And
Thank you.
so how long ago was that recording?
That recording was done, let's see, I want to say that it was like fall of last year, either fall or like the very beginning of this year. So very recent,
Okay,
totally.
awesome. So um, talk to me about to do that. How long was that? Like 4 minutes, that segment? How
Yeah.
long, how much preparation to do 4 minutes, would you say?
Yes.
Wait,
Um,
I know that's a hard question because then you go back to how much have you been practicing singing, but
right.
given to that specific piece, how much time goes into actually being
Like
able,
learning it
yeah,
and
learning it,
practicing.
practicing it, with an
Totally.
accompanist, like all of that, like
Yeah.
just
So I guess like, when I receive the aria or the piece that I'm going to perform, like researching that aria takes, anywhere between like 30 minutes to a couple hours, depending on like if I want to watch the whole opera or if I have enough information about the opera that, oh, I can infer like this is what this character is doing. Or yeah. So with this specific piece in particular, it's not from an opera that has been done very often, like at the Met. It's from Mignon. I can never pronounce that correctly, but it's a French opera, and it's composed by Ambroise Thomas.
okay,
And there's like so much about this opera in general. Like there's 3 acts to it. Basically, my character is a younger girl, and she's kind of reminiscing on this land that she remembers when she was really young. And you learn later that she was abducted by gypsies, and then later on in the opera, then she's kind of saved from them, and she lives happily ever after. So it's a good opera. But yeah, like I can't just get this piece and then just start learning the words and the translation without knowing where it came from.
right.
So that's like the
I'm
first step.
assuming you have to know what the whole story is to know what the tone is, what the mood is,
Yeah.
who the character is,
Yeah.
what part of the story is she in at this point. So
Right.
you can't just extract it and not know how it fits into the grand story, I would imagine. Yeah,
Exactly. And so it's like, you just have to know what's going on, like if she's happy or not. Because like imagine if somebody was singing like, I don't know, like an Adele song that's really sad, but they were doing it really happy. Like it just
right.
doesn't make sense. And
Yep.
so, this piece, and you can kind of hear it in the music too. It's very happy. It's like reminiscing on a past life or like their childhood. And so that's like kind of the first thing. It's trying to figure out the mindset of the character.
Okay.
And then, like I was saying earlier, getting the translations and figuring out what they're saying in the first place. And then after that, putting that all, technically, vocally, how I'm going to pronounce the different words and how to sing through certain vowels, and trying to figure out the best resonance space that I could create, with this piece that I'm given. And yeah, it's a whole
Yeah, it's a
technical thing.
lot of time that you put in for sure.
Yeah.
I know I mentioned earlier that you may hear some rain. Now it's really coming down. So
Oh yeah. No,
if
I don't
people are
hear it at
hearing that,
all.
you might hear a little thunder too. So that might be adding to the ambiance.
Ooh,
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's
perfect.
so. I mean, a hard question to answer, but you're talking
Hmm.
hours that to put
Oh
in
yeah.
to researching to knowing the story, then to practicing with,
With the coach, and
right.
then yeah, like going to your lessons. So like this piece, it took a few weeks to learn, longer than I would have liked because there's so much French in it. And
Okay.
so, and French is definitely the one language that it takes me a little bit longer to learn,
Okay.
just because there's so many different rules, but I love it. But
Well,
yeah,
it
definitely.
probably makes it easier for the next French piece that you have, though, right? I mean, the more you
Yes,
do, I would
that
imagine.
is so
Yeah.
true. Oh
Yeah.
yeah. Like
So,
I've learned so many French pieces just like in the last year.
okay.
But
So,
yeah,
all right. So let's go. Let's go. I know we're jumping all over the place,
totally.
just kind of the way my brain works. But
Sure.
so let's talk about. So why music? Why is music
Yeah.
such a? I mean, you've devoted your life to this, and
Yep.
so what's the origin of that, and how did that blossom into such a major passion for you?
Yeah. So back in like around first or second grade for me, so what is that, like I was 7 or 8 years old. My mom signed me up for piano lessons, and we did it through the music director at my church that I went to, and it was fantastic. It really kind of got me on board to, how to read music and how to interpret music already at that young of an age. And then through that, I decided to join the children's choir, and I did that for many years, probably like 5 or 6 years. I don't exactly remember, but that's kind of where, I got more interested in singing. And then um, when I was in sixth grade or so, I saw Wicked the musical. And so
Hmm.
the story about the, Wizard of Oz, the witches, and I was convinced, I'm like, I want to be on that stage. That is so freaking cool. And so I decided to do more musical theater back at that age, and just really got into acting, really got into singing. But in high school, I realized that vocally, I don't have that much of a like Broadway musical theater sort of belty forward voice. And I started taking voice lessons at that time. My teacher there really encouraged me to go more that like classical route. We were learning a lot more pieces for soprano or high voices. And so
Okay.
fell in love with that. And so
Wow.
like my interests really changed. And so,
But
yeah. And
there
so,
was something about the music that, I think it's really interesting that I feel like when people have this passion, not always, but sometimes there's this event or moment, and you sitting in that theater and looking on that stage and seeing, I don't know if there was a particular character in Wicked, but there was just that left a mark. And it lasted, for some kids, that may last a couple of weeks, and that's what I want to do, and then they move on to something else. But it stuck with you,
right.
which is really interesting. And then it broadened.
Yeah.
It wasn't like I want to be on Broadway. That's where it started, but then
Yeah.
it became more of like, no, I want to be able to perform and I want to be able to sing. And so,
Totally.
yeah,
It
then
kind of evolved.
yeah, yeah. Do
Absolutely.
you feel like it might evolve somewhere else as you get older, like into a
Yeah.
different type of music or playing an instrument or more
Yeah.
teaching, or I know you're doing some teaching now,
Yeah.
the vocal lessons, right? So,
Yeah.
yeah. Um,
So, yeah, like in terms of learning an instrument, I'm probably not going to go that route just because that's a whole nother like technical thing.
yeah,
And just learning an instrument is so difficult. But yeah, we'll see vocally where I go. As of
yeah.
right now, I love being in operas. I wouldn't mind doing like older musical theater, like golden age musical theater pieces,
Hmm.
like Oklahoma or
Yeah,
like like that era of musical theater. Um, but like I'm definitely like not against like anyone that does Broadway or opera or I'm sorry, Broadway or like the belting sort of
sure,
technique.
sure.
That would be really cool to learn
Yeah,
one
right.
day.
Do you feel like I know that you got that feedback when you first started to really, dig in and learn to sing. The
Mhm.
feedback was, hey, your voice isn't, maybe it's more conducive to this opera versus Broadway. But is there, now that you've honed your voice in opera, do you feel like that makes it, um you could do Broadway now, and because of all of the practice
Of
and all
the
of that? Yeah.
Yeah, so if you think of learning like classical music and doing Broadway and like jazz style music, kind of like dancing, for example. So when younger kids decide that they want to dance for the first time, they join ballet. And so
Right.
ballet teaches you the basics, and
Hmm.
like it's, obviously the oldest type of dance that is studied today, but from ballet, then you can kind of evolve into like the hip hop or like jazz dance and things like that.
Yeah.
Very similar with music or with vocal music. So you always want to learn the technical, what am I trying to say? You always want to learn the classical technique first. And then through there, then you can start really branching out, because it just helps so much with, making sure that you're singing in a healthy way. And so that's why when I started doing voice lessons, like I learned that more classical technique, but then instead of trying to, go more towards the like Broadway style sound, I really stuck with, staying in that classical
Right.
area of music.
Exactly.
And so,
So you started
yeah,
off with the foundation, and then
exactly.
once you have that foundation, then you can build and go a different direction with
Wherever
it.
you
So,
want.
yeah. Yeah.
Exactly.
I know Bob Davis spent a lot of time doing ballet and before he got into breakdancing in the
Oh
80s.
yeah.
So
True inspiration right
I
there.
think I have a video of that. Let's go to it. I'm just kidding. So then you obviously honed this craft, and now you have a master's in music,
Hmm.
of
Sure do.
vocal performance from the University of Denver Lamont School. Is that right?
Lamont School of
A-
Music.
And you are
Yes.
technically a lyric mezzo soprano. Do I have that right?
Yeah. So,
Okay.
and
What's
that's been a whole journey in itself in general. Oh, 1 second. I just had a weird pop up.
Oh, okay. I can't see
Sorry
it.
about that.
So. Oh,
Okay.
you're fine.
I thought it was on Zoom. So,
Yeah,
okay.
I know it. I've been getting a couple too, and I'm like, I don't think they show up.
Yeah.
So
Okay. Sorry about that.
you're fine.
But yeah, I'm sorry. What was,
So a
I
mezzo
totally got lost.
soprano. So how would you define if somebody like me who has no idea of what a lyric mezzo soprano is? How would you define
Yes.
that?
Absolutely. So the whole lyric sort of category, like there's a bunch of different categories. So you could be like a light lyric, you could be a dramatic. In the soprano world, there's like coloratura sopranos, there's again dramatic sopranos. Those are all a part of what is called the FACH system,
Okay.
FACH.
Okay.
And so it's just a way to classify different types of singing voices. So in my FACH, being a mezzo, that means that I am a lower singer. You can kind of hear it probably in my speaking voice too.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not the type of person that's going to be singing those really, really high notes, like those Queen of the Night notes. That's crazy for me. But I tend to have more of a warmer tone to my voice. And because of that, that's just kind of why I'm classified there. And I'm a lyric too, because I don't have a really loud, like, dramatic sort of sound to my voice. And so it's
So
the
so
characters that
lyric
I would,
lyric
yeah.
I when I think of lyric I think of words. That's not what it means. So what does lyric mean?
Yeah. So lyric, it's basically like a voice type where it's a little bit lighter,
Okay.
more lighthearted in a way.
Got it.
So the characters that I would play in operas, for example, would be like younger boys, to be completely honest. There's an opera called Le Nozze di Figaro, or The Marriage of Figaro. And one of the characters is named Cherubino, and he is like a 15-year-old boy who is played by a woman. So kind of like Peter Pan in the
Okay.
play being played
Okay.
by a woman, same sort of thing.
Got it.
So
Okay.
it's
So
definitely,
lyric
yeah,
describes more of kind of the texture of your voice or
yes,
the
exactly.
personality of your voice. Got it.
Yep. And the
Very
type of
cool.
rep that, is most comfortable for me. Totally.
Awesome. Well, I was looking at your resume. It's very impressive. You've got countless just different types of obviously concerts and operas and recitals, and so you're
Totally.
obviously out there performing a lot. So you must really love not only singing but performing as well. So yeah, it's really cool.
Absolutely.
And then it
Yeah.
looks like you're doing side work with private events and weddings, and then also teaching some vocal lessons. So
Yeah.
yeah, this
And
really
so
is.
that was, yeah, like back in Denver, I was, super active with all of that before coronavirus. But like one event that I was really excited for, I was supposed to come up to Omaha, and I was going to collaborate with one of the teachers at Lamont, and we were going to perform pieces. It was an art song set of pieces with the lyrics coming from Greta Thunberg's her
Oh
speeches
yeah,
on
yeah,
climate control.
yeah.
And so I was supposed to do that, and eventually that got canceled. But it's definitely like, I'm branching out kind of from opera sometimes. I get to do these really cool new works. But like I also worked at the Cathedral Basilica in Denver. I was a cantor there. And I did operas too at the University of Denver. And so definitely a broad spectrum of different things that I've just totally have enjoyed,
Yeah.
and I love doing. Yeah.
So it sounds like, some people maybe have a vision of this is what I want to do. And then they go to school and then somewhere midway, they realize, I don't know if this is what I want to do. Once you realize
Yeah.
all the work that it takes, but I can see in your face that wasn't the case for you, that the more you got into it, the more you wanted to do it, it seems like. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, like it's definitely funny because when I first started going to Xavier, my undergrad, I initially was going there for an education degree in music. And then I guess like a couple years in, I realized like, I don't know, like I don't think I want to teach in a classroom. I think I just want to go out and I want to perform or teach privately. And so I kind of veered off from the education direction and just stuck with
Right.
doing music. And so yeah, and it felt really freeing, and I love just the creative aspect that goes into it, as well as it being very hard work, but
Right.
it's so rewarding,
So,
definitely.
so in terms of like vocal lessons,
Hmm.
I'm not much of a singer. So, and another lifetime I used to play, and I still noodle around with it. But so, for example, I love blues music. So, and
Oh
I
yeah,
play like blues harmonica. And if I
totally.
sing, I feel like my range is, very, very small. Could you
Sure.
take somebody that okay, I don't want to learn classic music, but
Sure.
could you help someone like me who thinks I can't sing?
Oh,
I play this
absolutely.
harmonica, but I can't sing. So what
Absolutely.
would go into that? Would it be getting better pitch so that you knew how to sing on key, increasing your range? How would that? What would that
Yeah.
look like?
Totally. I've had students that have come to me in a very similar, with similar questions like, hey, I don't want to do this professionally, but I want to build my range and I want to, when I play guitar, I want to sound good when I'm doing it. I'm like, perfect. And so it's kind of figuring out where you are. There are students that I have that can't match pitch. And so I'll play a note on the piano and they don't know how to match that same pitch.
Hmm.
And so it's kind of starting from, wherever you are starting from, wherever that may be, I can easily go in and just kind of like tweak things or figure out, what's easy for you or try to offer different technical direction. So maybe like if you're singing from your chest, adding just a little bit of head voice or a little bit, falsetto to something will make it a lot easier for you to sing.
Hmm.
So in the end, it's like if you really want to go into singing and this is something that you're really passionate about, it doesn't really matter like how talented you may be at first.
Right.
In my opinion, it's like 20% talent but 80% hard work.
Yeah.
You can have some really great voices in high school that at the time they're like this and you may be down here, but if they don't improve or they don't try to seek, lessons or try to do better in their voice, they'll stay there while someone who is working really hard
Hmm.
could go up.
Hmm.
So,
No, I think that, and at QLI we talked about this in when we were visiting about the planning. We really do
yep,
believe almost everything is a skill. Almost
absolutely.
everything can be improved on and learned. Now there's some things like I'm 5'8", as much as I'd like to be 6'3", I can't
Yep.
work at that and become 6'3". I would imagine singing though, it just seems to me that singing is one thing that people hear someone who can sing and they say, "Oh, that you have a gift.
Mhm.
I can't sing." And it's amazing we don't view that as an instrument, right? So if you look at somebody who plays an amazing guitar,
Mhm.
okay, they didn't just pick that up, and right. So the voice
Yep.
is an instrument, but it's amazing how because we can't see it, like we can't. All we can do is hear it. We assume that it's you either have it or you don't, and I feel like
Right.
that discounts a lot of the work that you put in. And I'm sure what you sounded like in that video compared to when you first tried to sing classically, there's got to be a huge difference in terms of the improvement that you've made over the years. So
Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah,
No, and I totally agree with you. It's just, yeah, a lot of people that I talk to, like you were saying, I'll show them a video of me singing or I'll tell them that I sing opera, and then like besides the first thing, they'll be like, "Oh, sing something for me." It's like, they'll just assume, they're like, "Oh my gosh, you were born with it
yeah,
and
right. As
thanks
if
for
yeah.
sharing your gift with us." And it's like, "Well, yes and no, like it's a lot of hard work. It's
Right.
really like, if you want to do this, if you want to sing opera, if you want to sing professionally in general, there's so much work behind it and making sure that, you know, you're singing everything technically correct in a healthy way while also like preserving the art form and making sure that you're doing so like in the best way possible, I guess. So it's a
Yeah.
lot of hard work,
No,
definitely.
I yeah, I can only imagine how much work goes into being able to do a piece like that. And And so I think, we have a learning group here with some of our teammates that have kind of a brain brigade learning crew. So, for example, this is a simple example, but one of the members didn't know how to juggle at all, and our neuropsychologist is a really good juggler, so she worked with him and documented all, how to learn how to juggle. So it was really cool to just break it
Cool.
down in how something like, juggling becomes, it just becomes ingrained and it's implicit, and you just are able to do it without thinking, but
Yeah.
not when you start, for sure. So I think
Oh no.
I think it'd be awesome to take one of those members and pay you and do lessons and do a pretest and show how they sound, and then after,
Yeah.
somebody that really believes, I can't sing, there's no way I can become better. I think
Yeah.
I think singing is a really good example of, you can become better. Now, um,
Hmm.
can you sing a male baritone part? I mean, there's some things
I wish.
right, that, yeah, we may have um, a physical range or limitation, but within that, you certainly can improve. So I think
Totally.
it's, yeah, I just love that topic. And I just imagine the amount of practice and discipline that goes into that is oftentimes we just hear it and we don't realize it too. So yeah. Um,
Absolutely.
so what do you want to do in the future? So what are your goals?
Yeah.
What do you,
So, I mean, I would love to be in a young artist program. Usually, the next step after grad school would be basically auditioning for different opera houses and being kind of like an intern. And so, a lot of different programs, there's some that are over the summer, or there's some that are like a full year, where you go in and you perform like supporting roles in operas, or you do the outreach programs in that opera company. And so it's just another way to gain more information. I'm sorry, to gain more
yeah,
experience, and just go around and get more lessons in and get more coachings in. So that would be really great. But if that doesn't work out, there's a lot of different opera companies in, like smaller ones that are in different states and different cities that I could definitely apply to, and hopefully get little roles through there,
yeah.
teaching some voice lessons in the future. Yeah, like it's in the air, but I definitely want to stay in that realm of
Hmm.
opera music and performing.
Yeah.
So
So you see, that's your
definitely.
vision, is staying in within that umbrella.
I'd
Um,
love to.
yeah,
I'd love to go
yeah,
to Europe too. That would be amazing.
yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah.
So if somebody that's out there and says, "Gosh, I don't know anything about opera. I'd love to listen to one that would
Hmm.
potentially hook somebody in." Do you have one recommendation
Ooh.
for somebody that's? I know that's a tough one,
That wants to go
right?
into the realm.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like
I
just
would
like that just would just be a great one to be introduced to the world of opera.
All right. Puccini, who is
Okay.
a fantastic composer. I love him so much. A lot of his music is really popular to people that don't listen to opera. There's a piece called La Boheme. It's an
Okay.
opera in Italian. It's a shorter one, so you don't have to worry about being in an opera house for like 3 or 4 hours. And if you've ever seen Rent the musical,
Uh-huh.
Rent actually got its story from La Boheme.
Okay.
And so Rent is like a very loosely based musical on that opera. But I mean, that opera, it's beautiful. You have some huge voices that do just like some wonderful duets that just give you so many chills. There's a character that's really funny and really cunning, and then you have the whole romance aspect of it too. And it tackles a lot of different topics that happened at that time, regarding like the poor people and tuberculosis.
Okay.
And it's beautiful. Puccini is also the person that he wrote the piece O mio bambino caro, which is really famous. They do it on like X Factor, or what's it called, America's Got Talent.
Okay.
So that same composer, but it's just another opera. Really pretty though. I definitely recommend that one.
Okay. So obviously it's in Italian. So
Yeah.
you recommend someone watch it with the
So
subtitles so that you can understand the
yes,
story. Because I imagine sometimes
absolutely.
people maybe listen to opera and you can
Mhm.
appreciate the musical quality, but you don't really obviously
I know what they're
understand
talking
what
about.
they're talking about. But if you had watched it intently, then you could go back and listen and maybe be taken into those scenes and remember the scenes. I would imagine that would be more powerful than to just listen to it.
Well, and the thing is, if you see it live because they're acting in front of you,
Yeah.
and another cool thing too, if you go to any opera house, any, and it doesn't matter if they're singing in English or German or Italian, they will always have subtitles
Hmm.
either in front of your seat or above the stage, super titles. And so you can know what they're talking about, without having to know what language that they're singing in. Absolutely.
And so if people couldn't get to an opera house, especially with everything going on now, I imagine there's
Oh, yeah.
YouTube. I imagine there's some high quality YouTube, or maybe even on Amazon Prime or something like that, that you could probably
Yeah.
get some of these operas.
One of the best things that you can do, actually, the Met Opera in New York actually has a streaming service, and it's like, I think it's like $10 a month, but you can get the first week for free, sort of thing. But they have basically every opera that has been done at the Met on
Oh,
this
wow.
database, and you can go in and you can watch it all from start to finish with the subtitles that you want, and it's like high quality. You have some of the best voices in opera that are singing, and it'll really get you hooked into that. So I
That's really cool.
that would be
Yeah,
great.
that's really cool.
Yeah,
Um, okay, I know we're kind of running short on time here.
sure.
I do have another video, and
Absolutely.
and this is I should know more about Ave Maria, but
Oh, yeah.
uh, so t- so again, for the ill-informed like myself, talk to me about this piece and
Oh,
the
sure.
significance to you.
So this is let me double check. I think it's the Schubert Ave Maria, and there's so many different Ave Marias. Um, Let me just check real quick so I'm not
Yep.
saying the wrong
No,
composer
absolutely.
on accident. I'm getting a brain fart. Oh, ah, come on, internet. Yep. All
That's
righty.
the one. Okay, good.
So,
Yeah.
yep,
So
this is right.
so
Perfect.
this particular piece, yeah. Talk. uh,
Yes.
Tell us about this one.
So this is a very famous, popular Ave Maria that is done, at so many different churches. And I really love this composer in general. His name's Schubert, and he's a German 19th century composer. And I just love, like, it kind of has like that harp aspect in the piano or in the organ, as you'll hear in my piece. But yeah, it's one of those just beautiful sort of church pieces that you would sing and like you would expect walking into a church or during a funeral. That just kind of opens up the heavens. I really like it.
And what's the message of the piece? What is the meaning of it?
Um, it is, well, it's in Latin. I'll make sure I'll get the true translation. So again, I'm not being let's see. It's basically like Hail Mary,
Yeah,
full of grace.
right.
Yeah.
And now
Ave Maria. Mhm.
where have you performed this publicly? Lots and lots of places. I'm assuming it's really requested a lot.
Lots of church.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Almost every wedding that I do, I sing it. At the Cathedral Basilica, there was a time when people would go up to the Mary statue, and it was optional, but they would have flowers and just offer flowers to the Mary statue, and then I would sing, either one verse or both verses there. So
Okay.
I sung it so many times.
I bet. So in the blues world, we were talking a little bit about blues music.
Hmm.
There's certain songs like Mustang Sally where the band will just, if somebody requests it, because it's so over requested, the band will some bands will insist you have to give a $50 tip to pay it, to play it because they're so tired of
Yep.
playing it. Is that the same with you with this, or are you like, oh my gosh, I
Oh,
don't want to do Ave Maria again?
I
Um,
love Ave Maria.
yeah,
This is definitely one of those where, like, I could sing this piece so many
that's
times. I
awesome.
just think it sits so well in my voice, and
Yeah,
especially doing it in that cathedral where
yeah,
there's just so much reverb. It's one of my favorites to sing.
that's awesome.
But like, if we're talking about different masses and having to sing like the same piece, like
Yep.
on Eagle's Wings or something like
Oh, okay.
that, like
That's
that's my
That's your
version of
Mustang
that.
Sally. Yeah, or
Yep.
Sweet Home Chicago or whatever. Yeah. Okay, so this one's not. Okay,
Absolutely.
good. I'm glad to hear.
Yeah, I love this one.
All right, so we're gonna share the screen and we're gonna play it. And let's see. That is so beautiful and amazing. It's way better than Mustang Sally, I have to say.
Thank you.
um, so I just have so many questions, and I know we need to wrap up. But just one question with that:
Sure.
you've obviously you're
Absolutely.
so familiar with that piece. I mean, it's apparent with just how confident you are, and you know, me not even knowing the piece well, I know you're hitting it. But when you're looking at the music, the music stand there, are you looking
Mhm.
at musical notes and lyrics, or
Yeah.
tell me what you're glancing down? And I can see you know it, but you're just kind of, you know, it's almost like,
Yeah.
you know, it's almost like driving a car, right? You keep an eye on the road, but you can look away because you kind of know where you are. That's what it kind of
Right.
reminded me of. So what are you looking at when you're looking at your music?
Totally. And so when I'm looking at the music, I have the lyrics, of course, and then like obviously the notes there with what I'm singing, but I'm mainly looking at to what the organist is playing. So
Okay.
I can make sure that I'm staying, you know, in sync with what he's doing. And so, I mean, Phil's really good at following me, but I just want to make sure that I'm, maintaining like a pretty good rhythm, making sure that I'm
Wow.
not stretching things out too much and that he's not stretching things out, and, making sure that I have all of the Latin right. So
So there's three things really you're looking at: lyrics, the music of the piece, and then the organ music as well. Wow,
yeah,
talk about again with like the amount of training so that becomes automatic is really pretty remarkable, right? Because you can't be really
yeah,
thinking about it, I imagine, or you'll just
right.
completely lose track. It's amazing,
Exactly.
like the human brain and what can it do, right? And monitor all of those things in sync to be able to
Yep.
do that is really cool. Uh,
All while, trying to sing out and having the right technique. Absolutely.
yep.
Just kind of like quick glances too, just
Uh-huh.
making sure, like I said, like I'm on the right track and I'm
Yeah.
singing the right lyrics at the right time. So totally.
That's really, really amazing. So, just in closing, outside of even opera, what suggestions would you have for anyone that says, okay, I want to become as skilled at something as Stephanie is with singing? And like what would you say? Whether, it could be I love photography, or,
Mhm.
it could be playing a musical instrument, or learning how to be a great teacher, or whatever it is. What advice would you give to someone who wants to just be the best that they can be at something?
Totally. I mean, besides, practicing every day and going to your lessons and just, committing when you can, one thing that really helped with me is that, don't compare yourself to other people. Like that, going into grad school and listening to all of these fantastic voices, people that were just a year older than me who were just completely amazing. Um, you are your own person and you will, you'll progress as well as you can. And there's some things that you won't be able to do. Like you were saying earlier, like I will never be able to sing like a baritone. I will never have that sort of voice, and I will never have that voice that can go really, really high like a lot of sopranos can. But, finding the thing that you're really good at and the thing that you really love, just keep going into that and trying to find the things that make you uniquely you. And
That's really good.
so,
And so, your
yeah.
first piece of advice, I would imagine, try not to look at somebody who is more advanced,
Hmm.
and be discouraged by that, by maybe
Yes.
saying, "Oh my gosh, what have I got myself into? I'll never be able to do that," right? Because
Yeah,
it can be discouraging. So how do you make that
totally.
more of a motivation of like, and sometimes when
Yeah.
you talk to that person, they say, "Oh my gosh, let me tell you what it was like when I was your age, or when I first started." Um,
Yep.
then you do remember that, okay, it took a lot of work and a lot of practice and a lot of
Yeah.
mentoring, but they were able to get there, and so can I.
And
Um,
even like, if you're a singer and, you're 22 or 23 and you're wondering like, gosh, like, why don't I sound like, Isabel Leonard, who's one of my favorite mezzos, or why don't I sound like that older grad student? And sometimes it just has to do with, your voice and how
yeah,
you're growing, and that, things are still growing in your voice when you're in your 20s and 30s or in your mid 20s. It takes years until your voice is fully in the place where it's supposed to be
mm,
as an adult. And so you just have to trust the process,
yeah,
honestly.
that's
And
really good.
then, yeah,
That's awesome.
absolutely.
Well, I love this topic, and it's been a pleasure visiting with you. I could go on and on, but I need to let you get on with your day. So
Sure.
this has been great. I appreciate it for sure, and thank you so much. And when you get out, when we get everybody gets out of their house and we can travel and all of that, make sure you come by and say hi. We'd love to meet you for sure.
Totally. I'd love to sing some pieces.
Oh, it
That'd be
would be
amazing.
awesome. It would be
I
awesome to
would
have a
love
live
that.
performance. So let's just count on that the next time you're in the area for sure. Or,
Sounds
whether you're
great.
going from Illinois to Denver, we're right halfway, so you can swing in, and we would love to do
Oh,
that.
yeah. And like,
Awesome.
we know Bob in Denver.
Yeah. So, well,
I would
maybe
love
Bob,
to visit
maybe
him
Bob
again.
could play the piano
Or
while
not
you
in
sing. I'm
Denver.
kidding. Yeah.
Yep,
Right. Exactly.
exactly.
Bob.
Bob can play the piano for
Yeah.
me. That's
He can.
perfect. I'll
Yeah.
just throw him the sheet music and
Yeah.
hopefully
He'd be fine. He'd be fine, right? Because it doesn't, like we said, it doesn't take any practice or skill. It's easy to do.
totally. Oh yeah, anyone can do that.
That's awesome. All right, Stephanie. So thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Yes.
And we'll say
Thank
goodbye.
you.